If you're doing an age gap, you're looking for the man who's already got it. That's waiting at the finish line.
But
So
he wants you. It's different for us.
So
That
at
man
20,
wants
No,
young
but
women.
the whole point is you call women certain because you like all of your guys want to do is wait at the finish line. But you're promoted. If you're saying date the guy who already has it, he's older. That's waiting at the finish line.
That's true.
no, what's waiting at the finish
no.
line is when you beautiful in your youth, you be hanging out with the ball players, the actors and the dope boys in the city. And then when you turn 30, you try and get a man your age,
Yeah,
and that's waiting at the finish line.
That's not waiting at the. That's not the definition of waiting at the finish line.
So waiting at the finish line is the opposite of that,
Yes.
right? So like you're dating these men who like, you know, are in your socioeconomic range. And then after you've been jaded too many times, you then go for like the high value man because he's established and you don't have to build him because you've been burned by that. But I want to backtrack a little bit to what Mistaken was talking about. So often what I've seen is that the same women who are telling young girls, you know, to watch out for A, B, and C and expressing like this jaded outlook are also the same women who are telling young boys to go get that money, to go be this, don't focus on these little girls, you know, and it also comes from a place of like this often weird dynamic that can sometimes come from like either single parent households or households where a father may not be living in his masculinity, where like the son becomes the man of the house, right? So like in order to keep that relationship, well, you got to focus on our family and not on your own family. But with men who grow up in two parent households where it is a healthy dynamic, not only is it modeled for them, right? These are the things that you benefit from and you can see it, but they're also taught those things from a young age. And so it's tough with so many people not having access to a father or not having access to a successful marriage to then promote that because you're not seeing or understanding the benefits of it.
Man, I disagree with all of y'all.
Let me real fast because I want to make sure I define what my idea of waiting at the finish line is. If you're not helping this man build, you have not helped in that process at all. You're just there to take on the perks of it all. Mm-hmm. That, in my opinion, is waiting at the finish line. You're not willing to go through steps, struggle to get to love. You just want a finished product. That, in my opinion, is waiting at the finish line. Am I wrong? Am I wrong?
You see what was it? Doug Will said?
What?
There's no waiting if you choose on an older guy when you're young.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying to you is there's no struggle like that. So when I thought about waiting, and I could be wrong.
Yeah.
Is a person who's not willing to be down for the struggle. They want a finished product. Period. I don't care how young you are. You just want the finished product. I don't want to go through the process to get to the finished product. I just want the finished product.
This is where we have a.
And I could be wrong.
I understand the disconnect here. Because what we're actually saying, everybody, the one thing we never talk about is that everybody doesn't qualify nor deserve that man, that older man that has it all put together.
Oh, for sure.
So the issue here is that there are women that don't qualify. What I define as waiting as a finish line is the women that do not qualify going after those men and thinking they actually have a real chance at them. So it's the women that
that's
qualify.
Just not qualified. Like that's not waiting at the finish line. That's just delusion.
So, you know, the woman that gets a man that is well put together is willing to serve him. She's literally leading with femininity, saying, "I'm going to have your kids. How many do you want? Yes, you drive trucks. You own your own trucking company. I will stay home full time to raise." Like he got stars in his eyes because that's not what the women his age are saying. So she markets herself as such and then actually does it. That's the woman that gets that man. Any woman that's not willing to do that and just want to stay home and sit on her ass and think she deserves a man like that, that's how I describe the women that are waiting at the finish line.
So Steve Harvey's wife, if you listen to that story where she was saying, he said he knew when he was younger he didn't have what it took to get her, right? And then he had to make something of himself to get her. She was doing this, what I was describing, and then ended up with Steve Harvey. To me, she waited at the finish line, and she was one of the rare cases where that worked. I see a lot of women that I've known that were very beautiful do that same type of thing, and it don't work. They just
I
do
don't think she waited
slop.
at the finish line. I mean, she had a history of being with dudes who, you know, I don't.
We're
She
at the
was
finish line.
Well, no, what I was going to say is,
no. It's just her
is there a
opportunity
difference
at that
between a
age.
standard and waiting at the finish line? Meaning that if he met her at the time and she was saying, right now, you're not my standard. I need, I want a man that, I don't know, make this level of money or have this level of success. Is that waiting at the finish line if he understood the assignment, went, made something of himself because that's the woman that he wanted and then came back and got her? I think that situation is a little different than waiting at the finish line.
No.
Like
So, and here's why, right? Because regardless, like whether you position it from standard or wanting, right? She did not say, that's where you want to be. Great. Let's get together and do this together. And who knows where his career would be had she said, okay, from that point and built with him. She said, no, go do what you want to do. And when you are a finished product, you can come back. So it's still waiting at a finish line. Positioning it from like, this is my standard and this is what I want is it's still the same conversation of like sitting back and doing nothing and assuming these men are going to come to you. Like the difference is that he wanted her, right? He wanted her. But that isn't a factor in waiting at the finish line. That man wanting you does not determine whether or not you've been waiting at the finish line.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about too, and which we've said in these spaces, that if a man don't have his stuff together, he shouldn't be dating anyway. And so my thing is, if that was also her standard of saying, no, you don't got your ish together. So if you want to deal with me, you have to have your ish together. So, and he admitted that he was broke. I think I remember his story that he was sleeping in the Apollo Theater or something. He was broke or whatever. Like
that's the main reason I would never date her.
Yeah, she's absolutely right by saying, no, we don't need to be together. You go get your stuff together. When you got your stuff together, then we can, come and figure out what we're going to do.
How can I realistically expect you to take a vow saying for rich or poor, in sickness and health, when you won't mess with me in sickness or poor? Like that's
at that point you're not obligated. No, there's a difference.
We also
listen. If you go to a job and you know that job is not going to pay your worth, right? You have either the choice of going to that job and say, I'm going to see if it work out or not, versus telling that job like, well, no, this is my expectation of what I think that I'm worth paying. And, if you don't have it, or whatever, I'm going to go somewhere else. And I think for her, that's what he did. But if the job wants you, guess what? They're going to increase the amount that they're going to offer you. And so I think that situation is different in the sense that if I know up front you're not going to pay my worth, then I'm not going to even invest my time. Yeah. But once I'm there and I get to build at that job, I invest in that job, see how much I've contributed to that job, I'm going to be less willing to walk away from it if something goes wrong, because I feel like I'm part of that process.
This is why people who get married earlier don't usually divorce. Okay, so
and that's what I was going to say, Mike. The research has shown that people who get married earlier, besides like those 15-year-olds,
no, I'm gonna put my simp hat on real quick. Yeah, nobody expect Trigger Mike to ever do that.
Successful. So, with that being said, are we being taught wrong? Like, is this,
Oh, absolutely. But that my point of view is that. So, what Marcus said, the sickness and the health thing, we got to understand. Yeah, this is going to be the simplest thing I've said all year. We have to understand the position women find themselves in. So if I had to try to think like a woman, it isn't just the fact that you love a man. You have to understand if they're going to exercise any amount of foresight, you're going to know I'm going to impregnate your ass probably very quickly. Do you have the means to take care of this child at least? Right. So this is what I think a woman should be thinking when she takes on her husband. That's why when her father gives her away and he has anything to do with the man that she chose, he's making sure you have these basic functions in life to sustain yourself and this woman and the child that she will bear for you. That's why when families are involved, that whole thing is very important. So sickness and health doesn't mean take him when he's poor and sick and all of that. It means when he falls sick. If he misses a step, gets laid off, and becomes poor, will you ride with him?
So the reason that's kind of tricky is because if you know for a fact she wouldn't, all right. So if you know for a fact she wouldn't date you while poor, if you lose your job and become poor, then you could honestly understand why she would leave you. It's the same as if you be like, I don't date fat women, and somebody becomes fat, really fat within a relationship. It's kind of like becoming a new person. Like,
well,
I can understand the logic behind why somebody would have an issue with both of those things.
Do you think? No, I see what you're saying. Character.
Kind of the same thing.
I was gonna say someone's character is involved in that though.
Mm-hmm.
You see what I'm saying? And women really love, like, this is why they love men who have established themselves. So it speaks to their work ethic, their ability to create themselves and recreate themselves. Because if you do become poor, you do have the ability to recreate yourself into something.
Right.
So it just depends on how low were you, right? Because women do take men at these low circumstances now and then, but it's literally just because they're building something. Jeff Bezos was a dude in the office corner, right? Like just working a regular job, but he in there killing it, and you can see the promise in that. Versus, a dude that's literally just a bum and not doing anything all day, every day.